Coming up, we've got the latest high school hoops headlines, including some great midseason matchups from the Hanson Classic.
He may not always dominate the box score, but Ben Lauer has no trouble finding ways to impact the game. We'll go one-on-one with the O'Gorman big man.
Argus Leader Media's Dave Nicholson joins us to assess the Sioux Falls area teams as they prepare to hit the home stretch of the season.
All that plus our previews and picks for some of this week's top matchups. Varsity Sports starts right now.
And how is everybody doing? Alongside Jason Andera, I am Jay Elson. Welcome to another edition of Varsity Sports.
Well, another great week in high school hoops. We get closer and closer to February. We're into that mid-season realm right now, and we're finding out a little bit more every week about these teams.
Yeah, a little separation starting to happen. Contenders and pretenders
still
starting
confusing.
to go opposite directions. And we're going to tip it off this week, as we do every week, with a look at some of the top high school hoops headlines from around the region. We start with one of South Dakota's premier midseason events on the girls' side. The Corn Palace was filled with state title contenders last weekend for the 33rd annual Hanson Classic. 1 day, 9 games. Highlights included a win for the tournament host Hanson, 63-37 over Warner. An overtime victory for Sully Buttes in a rematch of last year's Class B title game against Ethan. A second-half comeback for St. Thomas More nemesis Crofton, which has beaten them now in 3 straight seasons. And a dominant win for Mount Vernon Plankington over McCook Central Montrose in the nightcap by a score of 45-28. Now, if that wasn't enough for you, don't worry. They're going to do it all over again this weekend at the Corn Palace with the boys.
Yeah, they do it right in Mitchell. Well, a trio of local athletes reached 1,000-point plateau last week. Hanson standout and DWU recruit Kennedy Cheeseman hit the mark on Thursday in Parker, while Jacob Hinker of Lennox also hit the mark last week. And then Centerville's Shannon O'Malley also got to 1,000 points. By the way, Shannon O'Malley, just a sophomore. She's got a ways to go.
Yeah, she can fill it up, too. Congratulations to all of those players. The battle for bragging rights in Bismarck, always exciting. In the first round of intra-city matchups between Bismarck High and Century was no different this year. Bismarck's boys and girls teams came into this game ranked in the top 5, but it was Century who sat atop both polls, and they proved they belong there. The Patriot ladies took care of business by rolling over the Demons 57-34, while the boys completed the sweep with a hard-fought 62-52 win. Round 2 still a ways off, though. Teams won't see each other again until the regular season finale on February 23rd.
Well, we're looking forward to a day filled with small school hoops in South Dakota coming up this Saturday. The Midco SN Shootout in Madison will include 8 games featuring teams from Class A and Class B from South Dakota and Minnesota, and we'll be there to record all the games. They'll be rebroadcast throughout the coming weeks. Tom Neiman, Eric Skoglund, and Mike Rickey will be on the call along with myself, and we will give you more information about that if you click on midcosn.com/shootout. Should be some fun games coming up.
Very much looking forward to that event. Well, speaking of midcosn.com, be sure to keep an eye on Jason's blog. National Signing Day fast approaching. The verbals are starting to roll in. Jason will be updating his list of commitments for high school standouts for North and South Dakota all the way up to February 3rd when players can officially sign their national letters of intent. We're going to cover all of them that night during our 1-hour Varsity Sports special. All right, that does it for headlines for this week, but there is one more thing we want to remind you of. That is our Midco SN podcast. That's something new we're doing here. Sometimes we can't get in everything for the show, so this is a great way for you to catch even more coverage of high school hoops in the Dakotas. You can hear from coaches, players, even some of our colleagues in the media. Last week alone, we had the Forum's Tom Mix, as well as Roosevelt boys coach Darius Buss on the show. For more info, go to midcosn.com/podcast. All right, well, the box score isn't the only way to measure a player's impact, and O'Gorman's Ben Lauer is a perfect example. We'll go one-on-one with tonight's big man when we come back.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Mitchell Technical Institute, Shields, and Farmers Union Insurance Agency.
Welcome back. Well, if you like gaudy stats and selfish shooters, this might not be the story for you. Sioux Falls O'Gorman senior Ben Lauer hasn't put up huge numbers, but he has caught the attention of plenty of college scouts. Here's more from the guy who puts the power in power forward. The O'Gorman starting 5 all average between 7 and 12 points per game. It's a true team approach. That's the way Ben Lauer likes it.
give a lot of credit to my teammates. We got so many guys that can score and make an impact offensively. We definitely have to improve defensively, but offensively we have a lot of weapons, and I realize that, and I just try to find other guys, and we have a lot of guys that can get into double digits. And so if the scoring can be distributed, if that's what it takes to win, then I'm completely content with that.
Ben's really unselfish. It's not about Ben trying to lead us and being the main guy. He gets it. He knows that our philosophy as far as our basketball squad is to get him a touch first, and then he's looking over his shoulders left and right and trying to find a perimeter guy. And we got some guys that can shoot it, and he's very aware of that. But he's very instrumental for us, both offensively and defensively.
The team is definitely balanced in their offensive attack, but when the Knights need a hoop, they depend on the versatility of Lauer.
The fact that he can play around the perimeter, he can face up to the basket, and for us, he's most of his time is playing with his back against the basket. But Ben is having a great year leading our basketball team. He's a captain on this year's squad, and he's kind of our go-to guy, if you will, down low, and just has had a great start to this thing.
One of the attributes that gives Ben an advantage on the court is his defense. It's something he works hard at.
It's not really my favorite part of the game, but it's definitely the most important part of the game, especially for our team right now. With all the offensive weapons we have, we really have to improve on defense. And so I'm just trying to improve my own game and then get us all to play defense harder than we have been, because that's definitely where we need to improve throughout the rest of the season.
That rare power and quickness made for a combination that attracted college scouts.
I hadn't really thought about college. I just wanted to focus on my high school career, and then the opportunity presented itself, and I decided that I wanted to play in next level.
Once he set his mind on college basketball, he set out to find the best situation. But before the season, he decided that Minnesota State Moorhead was his best fit athletically and academically. While he looks forward to playing at the college level, his head is definitely in the here and now.
I'm just trying to focus on this season and what I have to do for this basketball team. I'll take college when it comes and just take it one step at a time.
Ben and the O'Gorman Knights have shown glimpses of some great basketball and have the potential to beat anyone in the state. Getting that state title as a senior is definitely the ultimate goal, and Ben knows what it will take to get there.
We definitely have our eyes set on the state tournament again. But we just need to take it one step at a time, improve each day as a basketball team as a whole. And I think in order to get where we want to be in March, we need to definitely improve on our defense and then just keep doing what we're trying to run offensively.
All right, well, so far this season for Lauer and the Knights, been a bit up and down, as has the rest of Sioux Falls high school basketball, at least in terms of AA schools. But the Knights feel like they're heading in the right direction, and it's important to obviously play your best at the end.
It's a wide open field this year, and O'Gorman has proven they can beat almost anyone in the state, but they've also got some stuff to work on, and they know that. But individually, they've got the pieces, and it starts with Ben Lauer. Let's look at his stats here. Just 9.4 points per game, 4.9 rebounds per game, a couple assists a game. He does everything well, but he's not going to be the kind of guy like Braxton Elliott was for him last year, where he's going to put up 20 points in a certain night. But the thing that the college's scouts love about him is the versatility. He can square up. He can shoot that jumper from outside, and he's also going to be able to play the three at the college level and post up some guys who are probably not quite as built as he is. So I think he's going to have an advantage there too. And of course, defensively, I think that's the real steal here. He's going to be a great defender at the college level.
Well, and I think too, the offensive numbers get so much attention,
right?
But that isn't the end-all, be-all to what makes a successful college basketball player.
Right.
A lot of those guys transition, become very good players at the next level.
You don't need 5 scorers at the college level. They need guys like Ben Lauer, and that's why he's earned a lot of accolades and a lot of attention.
All right, well, how about this? 10 games into the season, none of the 4 AA Sioux Falls high schools were more than 2 games above 500. Is there a turnaround in sight? Well, we're going to talk about that and more with Argus Leader Media's Dave Nicholson right after this.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Mitchell Technical Institute, Shields, and Farmers Union Insurance Agency.
And welcome back. Well, we're going to try something a little different this week. Instead of bringing in a guest for a straight-up question and answer session, we thought we would throw said guest a bit of a curveball. Argus Leader Media's Dave Nicholson joins us now. And Dave, we're going to play the over-under game. Rules are simple. We give you a question. You answer with higher or lower and tell us why. You think you can handle that?
I do better with the nice, slow, easy pitch right down the middle.
Well, tough. This is the way we're going to do it. Let's do this. First up, the O'Gorman Knights, currently ranked number 4 in the boys' Class AA Sports Writers poll. Do you think they'll finish over or under 4th at the state tournament?
Well, that's exactly where they're situated right now, and we're seeing a little bit of a changing of the guard. Certainly last year in Class AA boys, Sioux Falls kind of dominated the scene. Some graduations have changed things, but O'Gorman, I think, is pretty well situated to make a run. They've struggled a little bit here, but against some pretty good teams, and I think that they'll be in the mix there. I see them as definitely a potential semifinalist at state, and so it's a matter of, are they winning that semifinal game, or are they winning that third place game? And against the likes of Pierre or Aberdeen Central or Huron or Watertown, sure, I'll go for it. I'll give O'Gorman the over. They finish above 4th place at state.
There you go.
Bold pick. Well, speaking of boys basketball, the 4 AA Sioux Falls schools currently have an average of 5 losses apiece. What will the average be at the end of the regular season? I know this is a lot of math for you, but we'll set the over-under at 8.
All right, I carry the 2. I think that's a pretty good number. I'll go over. I think it's going to probably finish around 9 because some teams in Sioux Falls might finish a tick under 500 and others a tick above. I think that the 2 power schools in the city right now, O'Gorman, also Washington, the Warriors are a team that's going to get better. They're waiting for some guys to develop. They're a team that's led by Sam Saganos, the point guard, 4-year starter now. I think they're going to continue to get better, especially as they get some of the young guys going. O'Gorman, I think, is going to finish below 8 losses. And then the other 2 teams in the city, Lincoln and Roosevelt. Lincoln, complete overhaul of their roster. I think they graduated 10 seniors, something like that, from last year's championship team. But on a one-game night basis, I think they're capable of beating anybody. They've got some length. They defend well. And then Roosevelt is another team. They're only going to get better once they get Jet Thune back at point guard. Of course, Roosevelt quarterback. He's going to be playing football at USF. He brings a lot to them as a leader and a smart, just all-around good player.
All right, AA girls teams in Sioux Falls, all looking pretty good. Think ahead to the state finals now, state semifinals, over under 2 of those teams in the Final Four.
Another tough one. I'm going to go over again. Maybe bold move here. I'll say 3 finish because 3 teams in the city here. You have to start with the defending champion Warriors. They're 8-1 right now, really playing well. Definitely have taken a step forward from last season when they finished the regular season 10-10. They'll definitely be in the mix. O'Gorman off to an undefeated start under Kent Colesrud, despite the losses of their 2 best players, Jess Mearis and Daly Steen. But they play this suffocating 2-3 style on defense. They can really muck up a game, and they usually end up low scoring. And then Sioux Falls Lincoln, I think, has really emerged. A couple players in their backcourt, Sydney Rosinski, another 3-year starter. She's really come along. And they've done everything this season pretty much without their center, Jill Rickey. She's 6'3". She blocked a ton of shots. As she gets healthy, I think the Patriots are really confident. They set up well. Right now, I believe they're number 5 in the Sports Writers poll. I expect them to be in the conversation at the end of the year, along with Aberdeen Central, and Rapid City Central is also off to a good start. But I'll say 3 Sioux Falls teams squeeze in there.
All right, well, we'll stick with AA girls. Currently, there are 3 teams that are undefeated against South Dakota opponents, Washington, Aberdeen, and O'Gorman. Over, under 1. How many of those teams will stay undefeated through the regular season?
I'll go under. I say no undefeated this season. I don't think any team. None of the teams strike me as maybe strong as Sioux Falls O'Gorman was last year, and they were 19-1. It's really hard to go undefeated. There are a handful of teams, I think, on the girls' side in AA that can win a championship, and I'm excited to have a chance to see Aberdeen Central because they were really impressive last year at the state tournament. Got some really good players, an up-and-comer in Peyton Burkhardt, and they're always well coached. So I think the Golden Eagles will be fun to watch, but to ask others to go undefeated is probably asking too much.
All right, good stuff. Thanks a lot again. Dave Nicholson from Argus Leader Media. Thank you, sir. Well, there were some incredible individual efforts in North and South Dakota over the past 7 days, but there are only 2 Prep Hoops Dakota's Players of the Week, and we're going to unveil the winners next.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Mitchell Technical Institute, Shields, and Farmers Union Insurance Agency.
Welcome back to Varsity Sports. A number of players blew up the box score last week, and we, along with our friends at Prep Hoops Dakotas, want to take some time to recognize their efforts. Let's start, Jason, with the North Dakota Player of the Week.
Well, look at what Jacob Mertens has done for Devils Lake. I mean, there's a reason they're undefeated in the EDC, and it's this guy right here, averaging 21 a game this year, but last week, a 25.7 rebound performance against Grand Forks Red River. It's a quality opponent.
All right, moving into South Dakota, our winner this week, Robert Vamaka from Gregory.
Yeah, they needed a couple of wins last week, and he helped them to those couple of wins. He knocked out 6 3-pointers on Friday night, totaled 26 points and 10 boards, another double-double for that guy, a guy that really has been having a good season. Great to recognize some of these guys that we don't see highlights on every week.
All right, moving on. Time to run the fast break, Jandy. This game remains the same. I'm going to fire some fast-paced questions at you, and it's your job to answer without violating the shot clock. Got it?
All right, let's try it.
Let's put 35 seconds on the board, and here we go. First up, another week brings another Hanson Classic. Which boys games are you looking forward to the most on Saturday?
Well, I think you got to look at Sioux Valley. Just suffered another loss coming in, and
to Chester.
Yeah, that's a tough team, but I want to see how they bounce back. And they play a really good team out of Minnesota called Maple Valley. They only have one loss in the season, so it'll be a really interesting matchup. But I also want to mention Warner is taking on White River, and I want to see if White River is for real. We know Warner is for real. Just beat a Class A team last week. I want to see if White River belongs in that conversation.
All right, more and more regions in North Dakota are going to the super regional format. What do you think of that? You like it?
Well, I think it's great because you bring all the teams into the same place to play these super regional games, which is terrific for excitement. And I also like the fact that there's not double elimination like there is in the current district seedings. And right now, 3 of the 8 regions do the super regional format. I kind of wish it was uniform and everybody did it the same way. I think that makes more sense. Yeah. And it might be going to that, but I think going that direction definitely helps the excitement in March.
It definitely creates that tournament feel, whereas one region game in one place and another, you just kind of, yes, it's a playoff game, but it is a little bit different. All right, moving on. We're seeing more and more of this all the time. Should 7th graders be allowed to play varsity basketball?
You know, I looked through the rosters in North and South Dakota. I found 2 7th graders that are on varsity teams this year. One of them, Michael Morris for Yankton, who plays a significant role for his team off the bench, and he doesn't look like a 7th grader. I'm fine with it. I know other people are not fine with it. They think 7th graders shouldn't be hanging out with seniors in high school. I think if you can play and if your team needs you, like Del Rapids St. Mary's starts a 7th grader who put up 15 points earlier this week, Connor Libas, and he's just going to get better and better. You're not going to get better playing against other 7th and 8th graders. You are against these varsity teams, so I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I guess you got to challenge yourself, but at the same time, I think maybe the grind of playing that varsity schedule at such a young age, maybe that's a little bit of what people have problems.
But if you're good enough, play.
All right, well, there is a big-time matchup coming up in Class A boys this week with Sioux Falls Christian and Madison set to square off on Saturday. Find out which team we think is going to come out on top next.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Mitchell Technical Institute, Shields, and Farmers Union Insurance Agency.
And welcome back to Varsity Sports. We wrap things up tonight with another round of high school hoops pick'em. And as we look at the standings to this point,
look at this guy.
Whoa.
2 for 2 on upset picks,
That's
folks.
crazy.
That's how you get this contest done.
We get 4 games a week, 1 point per each correct pick, 2 points if you get your upset pick, and that's a big part of the difference right now. All right, let's start in North Dakota boys. Interesting matchup here in the EDC is Devils Lake, off to a great start, visits West Fargo.
Yeah, they've lost a couple out-of-conference games. Perfect so far in the EDC. This will be their best challenge, though, playing against West Fargo. By the way, Mason Kostecki, this guy averages about 17 minutes per game. He averages 4 3-pointers per game. He's been lighting it up from the outside. I think he'll get some of that done, but West Fargo's defense too good.
I like West Fargo as well. The Packers lost to the Firebirds 69-61 on December 11th, but they've won 5 in a row. Yeah. They're playing really well, and they're blowing teams out, to be honest with you. So I kind of like them to even it up. Tough to beat a team on their home floor, especially when you beat them earlier in the year, so give me West Fargo. The girls' side, Wahpeton at Davies.
You know, normally we look for a little bit more compelling matchups than this one. Honestly, the schedule does not lend itself to a lot of compelling matchups. Davies has been playing tremendous lately. Wahpeton trying to get their footing. I mean, they've got some good scorers, but Davies playing out of the world right now. They're going to win this one handily.
The Eagles hung tough with Shanley. Not a lot of teams could say that. They have lost 2 in a row, but I think there's no way that streak reaches 3. I like Davies as well. South Dakota boys, we mentioned it going into the break. Sioux Falls Christian at Madison, a highly anticipated regular season matchup.
This will be a fun one. Both teams coming off of a game on Thursday, just the day before. In fact, Madison has to play Del Rapids and then go play them.
Yeah.
So these two teams will be either tuned up or a little tired out. Either way, I think Madison gets the home win in this one.
I like Madison as well, and part of it is because the Chargers have lost. The 2 losses are to the 2 best teams they've played. That's Del Rapids and MLC Floyd Valley out of Iowa. I mean, all of their wins are against teams no more than 2 games above 500.
Yeah,
I
but
think
a couple big double A
that's
wins.
just why I'm basing my decision on it.
All
But
right.
I like Madison. Obviously, the Bulldogs are obviously very tough at home as well. Finally, South Dakota girls, Rapid City Central at O'Gorman.
I'm going to throw a huge curveball here. Even though Rapid City Central just lost a game on Tuesday night, I think they have the type of team that could knock off a team like O'Gorman. O'Gorman hasn't played that tough a schedule yet, and Central, this is a team that's beaten some really good teams. I'm going to take a young Rapid City Central team on the road.
Cobblers won. Only South Dakota lost is by 4 points to Aberdeen Central, who is undefeated. That tells you something. That game was at home. But what I like about O'Gorman is their defense, and Dave Nicholson mentioned it a little bit earlier, they're averaging 27.3 points against per game. That's crazy good. I think the Knights get the win. Finally, upset picks of the week.
The Yankton boys, I think, are going to pull out an upset against Huron on Saturday.
I like the Del Rapids girls over Sioux Valley. The Cossacks are undefeated to this point, but I think the Warriors going to hand them that first loss
2 for 2
on their home floor. All right, that's going to do it for us for this week. For Jason Andera, I'm Jay Elson. Enjoy the games, everybody. We'll see you back here next week.